What's going on there, guys? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the weekend out here. This is the Earthmaster on this December 18th, 2021 date, about 11:33 a.m. California time here along the West Coast, where we're seeing increased earthquake activity ramp up along the Gulf of California all the way up into Southern California, with a return of the swarming activity along the West Coast. We'll check out Hawaii here in just a second. See that 3.0 earthquake, the latest quake, right around the San Andreas Fault system there in the southern end, right about just north of the locked area. Along this region right here is this expected big one to happen in the future, but it's kind of north of that area of the southern section. Looking at that 3.0 occurring at, look at that number, 11.1. 11.1 kilometers for that 3.0, which sits just about a mile or two to the west southwest of the San Andreas Fault zone, which is this area right here. South Branch begins within this region. Some further activity down south as well. Just want to go to the 2.5 and above. Not a whole lot of further movement down there in Southern California on the 2.5 threshold, but a return of earthquake activity here in the northern end of the Gulf of California region, with a couple mid-4s kicking off overnight and this morning. You can see that little earthquake sequence down here. 4.6 appears to be the largest so far in that cluster of movement in the south part of the area. Looking at the microquakes within this region, not a whole lot of movement along the San Jacinto Fault area overnight, but there is a little swarming taking place right there on the Mexico-United States border. I see that pretty good cluster of quakes there within the region, so a little heightened activity here along this region of the Gulf, stretching up into the San Andreas region. Some slippage as well going on along the creeping section up here to the north, and also over here around the Calaveras Fault zone, with a couple small microquakes outside of the San Jose area. Eastern Sierra Nevada mountains, kind of minimal overnight. Just a couple sporadic earthquakes up and down the region, including Ridgecrest south of the area there. Garlock Fault remains quiet for now. That's this shear fault system. Tonopah, Nevada, a little bit of activity as well. Northern Cal northward looks pretty quiet. These earthquakes up here, some microquakes from actually from last night. We haven't seen anything renewed in this movement or within this area, nor have we seen any activity off the coast of Oregon yet. But that could change. A lot of times, well, when we had that earthquake swarming up here to the north, we had seen a prior significant swarm of movement here in the Gulf of California. And with the return of earthquake activity in this region, it's possible we could see that movement kick up here again in the north. How long it will take will remain. We'll have to check on that and see exactly how long it will take to kick up there. I don't know. It's not as intense down here in this region as we had seen, but it's awfully quiet into the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of what I'm worried about here. Oklahoma, Texas region seeing some movement, as well as the New Madrid zone, but overall not a whole lot of swarming activity. 2.7 near Falls City, Texas. Pretty shallow earthquake way down there around the Gulf almost, north of Corpus Christi and southeast of San Antonio. Out there in the, I'm guessing these are going to be a fracking operation earthquake, potentially. There we go once again. All these little fracking pumping operations, getting some earthquake activity there in the crustal weak areas in the Texas region. Zooming out, you can see Middle America Trench somewhat calm. We did see some uptick along the Puerto Rico Trench here within the last couple hours, including a deep 40-kilometer deep 4.0, right almost smack dab on the Puerto Rico Trench region. South America remains awfully quiet, with no movement here at the 4.0 threshold. I'm sure there's some other activity along here that's not being reported, but for now, nothing really shown up there on the map. 4.9, once again into the subduction zone down here along the South Sandwich Trench. 53.5 kilometers for that earthquake. North American, or the northwestern part of the Pacific Plate remains quiet. And looks like some deep earthquake activity overnight, actually late last night, early this morning. Seen some movement out here around the Tonga Trench, 5.7. That one was from yesterday. Hasn't quite fallen off the map yet. Some activity kicking up around the Indonesia area, and over here around the Greece area. The Mediterranean Sea had a 5.1, 62 kilometers around the Sea of Crete, along this trench right here. What else we got here? Hawaii kind of kicking up a little bit around the northern part, northeastern part, or eastern part, I should say. 2.5 kicking up, 5.7 kilometers just to the east of the Kilauea volcano, and some further activity stretching up in a line towards Mauna Loa. The Loihi Seamount remains relatively quiet for now, and the southeast flank looking pretty typical for activity. I was checking out the Kilauea update, still sits at the orange watch level. Not a whole lot of significant movement. Talking about the update here on the Kilauea volcano, looks about the same. This was put out yesterday. Activity remains from a single vent. It says Kilauea volcano is erupting from a single vent in the western wall of the crater. The vent is supplying lava to Lava Lake in the western portion of the crater. All recent lava activity remains confined within the crater in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Everything looks pretty normal on the East Rift Zone. Low rates of ground deformation and seismicity continue along the rift zones. Looks like everything typical there in that region as far as that volcano goes. Yellowstone overnight, not a whole lot of activity. I couldn't even get this to activate. Something's going on with the Yellowstone overview thumbnails. So I had to go to the University of Utah and check out the specific seismograph stations myself here. And this is actually a pretty cool site to check out, quake.utah.edu. You click on the monitoring and the live seismographs, and it will bring you up to a map that has obvious seismograph stations and other GPS monitoring and gas emission stations. There's not a whole lot going on here in the Yellowstone area overnight. Everything looks pretty calm and mellow for the most part. I know you guys can't see it on that end for whatever window, or for whatever reason the window popped up here and is not letting me show it on the stream. It's kind of odd. What else we got? Still watching the solar weather activity. We'll cover that a little bit more this afternoon, this evening. Still looking at 90% chance C flare. M flare sits at 25 with a 5% chance of a X flare. Looks like there was a little C flare. I shouldn't say little, almost an M flare kicking up here on the map today within the last hour or so. That hasn't been measured, hasn't been picked up yet. It looks like it may produce a CME. I'm not for sure exactly which sunspot it is that kicked off that upper C flare, but things are still kind of crackling a little bit on the sun. We'll be back a little bit later on, folks, with a complete update on the solar weather and earthquake activity along the Gulf of California and Southern California region. Take care.